Have you ever asked yourself why you felt out of place in school? Even surrounded by people, something inside you told you that you didn't belong there. It wasn't arrogance or excessive shyness. It was as if your spirit was always on another plane, as if you saw the world in a way that no one else could. While others easily made friends, you observed more than you spoke. Conversations seemed empty, interests superficial. And no matter how much you tried to fit in, something pulled you inward. Silence became a refuge. The questions that accompanied you went beyond tests or school rules. At that time, you may have thought there was something wrong with you. But today, it's time to understand. What made you different was precisely what made you chosen. Yes, chosen. And that feeling you carried in childhood or adolescence was not a mistake. It was a sign. You sensed when the environment wasn't genuine. You noticed when people were pretending, and that pushed you away. Many misunderstood you. They called you strange, reserved, distant. But the truth is that your soul was already being prepared to live with purpose. School could never contain the magnitude of what God placed in you. In this video, you will understand why that discomfort made sense. You will realize that exclusion, doubt, and restlessness were part of a plan. God did not create you to fit in. He created you to break through, to guide, to transform. And it all started in that classroom, where you never felt like a part of it. If you have always carried this feeling and want to finally understand why, stay here. This message is for separated souls, for those who always knew, even without being able to explain, that something greater was waiting ahead. You will discover that everything that hurt you was, in fact, preparation. And before you continue, subscribe to the channel. Here, you will find spiritual direction, revelations, and confirmations that strengthen those who carry the mark of heaven. If you are one of the chosen ones, this space is yours. From a very early age, school seemed a strange territory for you. It didn't matter how many people were around you. The feeling of being isolated always accompanied you. It was as if there were an invisible wall between you and the rest of the world. A difference that no one could explain, but that you felt deeply. While many mixed easily, making friends and participating in groups, you kept yourself a little more distant. Not due to extreme shyness, but because deep down you knew you weren't speaking the same language as them. Your concerns, your dreams, and your pains seemed greater than the empty conversations around you. The jokes that made others smile were not always funny to you. The parties, games, and competitions often seemed small compared to the questions echoing inside you. It was as if your soul was constantly seeking something that others hadn't even begun to imagine existed. You might even try to fit in, forcing conversations, imitating behaviors. But soon the restlessness struck. The feeling of being in the wrong place returned with full force. And it was hard to understand why. Even when you did everything right, that feeling of emptiness persisted. It was your essence rejecting a life that didn't align with it. Many confused this difference with arrogance or coldness. They thought you considered yourself superior, or that you didn't want friends. But what was really happening was that your spirit already recognized that there was a unique path reserved for you. A path that did not follow the same roads that most chose. You observed more than you spoke. You noticed details that no one else did. You felt what was behind gestures and words. This ability to see beyond the superficial was a gift, even though at the time it seemed like a burden. You were not weak. You were sensitive to what truly mattered. While others worried about appearances, you were already seeking meaning. While they fought for approval, you sought truth. And even without understanding, your heart knew you were not made to follow the crowd. You were shaped to walk different paths, guided by something that was still dormant inside you. The school corridors often felt like labyrinths, with no exit. The classroom seemed too tight to contain your thirst for discovery. You wanted answers that books couldn't provide. You wanted conversations that went beyond gossip. You wanted relationships that had roots, not masks. This restlessness was not a defect. It was preparation. While many were molding themselves to fit into the system, you were being prepared to question it, to transform it, to not surrender to it. And all of this began there, among the lined-up desks and the gazes that couldn't comprehend what shone within you. There were moments when you wondered if it was wrong to be this way, if the problem was yours. But today, looking back, it is clear. You were never wrong. You just carried a different frequency. A call that the school world could not recognize, but that heaven had already validated. Your silences contained questions that only time would answer. Your absences at parties disguised a strength that was growing in silence. Your difference, which once hurt, today reveals itself as your spiritual signature. What seemed like weakness was, in fact, evidence that you were chosen from the beginning. That feeling of not belonging was, in fact, the greatest sign that you were already carrying something special. And it is this difference that today drives you to live with more purpose, with more awareness, knowing that the school of life has always been much greater than any classroom that tried to confine you. From an early age, something inside you did not accept everything as it came. The ready-made explanations, the imposed concepts, the unquestionable rules caused a restlessness that was hard to ignore. You were not the rebellious student, nor the disobedient one without cause. You were the curious one, the one who wanted to know the why of things, what lay beyond the surface. While many accepted lessons without reflection, you wanted more. You wanted to understand the root of ideas, to find meaning in what you learned. It was not enough to memorize formulas or repeat speeches. Your spirit longed for significance, for something that spoke directly to what your heart already intuited, even without explanation. In conversation circles, in classes, in school activities, your mind was always searching for gaps to question, not out of challenge, but because you felt there was more. You carried within you a thirst for truth that the world around you did not yet know how to quench. This often left you alone. Questioning was seen as disobedience. Doubting what was considered right unsettled teachers and peers. But what few understood was that your questions did not stem from rebellion. They came from a search for authenticity. You needed to find your own path, not just follow trails made by others. Being a questioner made you different. While most sought to please, you sought to understand. While many just wanted to pass the year, you wanted to comprehend the why of it all. Your soul knew that you were being prepared for missions where simply obeying would not be enough. Discernment would be necessary. The chosen one carries that mark. The mark of someone who does not settle for shallow answers. You were shaped to investigate, to dig deeper, to go beyond what is visible. And even though this brought challenges during your time in school, it was this instinct that preserved your essence in the face of so many pressures. The questioning spirit was the spark that kept your purpose alive, even when everything seemed to push you towards mediocrity. While others were content to follow, you were already hearing deep down a different calling. A voice that said that something much greater was reserved for your journey. In many moments you may have felt tired of being the complicated one, the one who wants to know too much. You might have wished to silence your questions to fit in better. But today, it is important to remember, it was these questions that kept your soul awake in a world that easily falls asleep. Every question you asked was a bridge being built. A bridge between what the world offered and what God was preparing for you. Your restlessness was not a waste of time. It was the silent training to develop discernment, courage, and wisdom for the days to come. That thirst for deep answers still lives in you. But now, it finds direction. Now you understand that not all questions will be answered by men, because some answers belong only to the Spirit. And you were prepared to seek in the right place, in the heart of God. Since you were young, you perceived what others did not say. A mere glance, a gesture, a forced silence, and something inside you already knew that something was wrong. Your intuition was not taught, it was natural. It was as if your heart had antennas that picked up truths hidden in the words and actions of others. While many blindly trusted appearances, you learned early on that not everything is as it seems. People who smiled at everyone could not hide the falseness in their eyes from you. This sensitivity protected you, but also isolated you, as you did not always know how to clearly explain what you felt so intensely. In school, this became even more evident. You knew when a friendship was self-serving, when a compliment was insincere, or when a situation was unsafe. And many times you preferred to be alone rather than get involved in something your spirit rejected, even without having all the evidence in hand. This sharp intuition is a gift of the chosen ones. It is like a silent radar that God places within those who have more difficult missions. Not to judge others, but to protect your heart from traps, illusions, and paths that would attempt to extinguish the light you carry. This ability to feel what lies beyond the obvious made you develop a healthy skepticism, not bitterness, but early wisdom. You learned to value essence more than appearance, and this shaped your character in a way that school could never teach. Many tried to make you believe that you were too sensitive, too suspicious, too dramatic. But deep down you knew. What your spirit felt was real. It was God whispering within you, warning, guiding, protecting. It was not paranoia. It was preparation for the purpose you carry today. The chosen ones do not see only with their physical eyes. They perceive with their spirit. That is why you did not always know how to explain why you avoided certain places, why you distanced yourself from some people, or why your heart would close in certain situations. It was the Holy Spirit working silently within you. This sharp intuition has been, and still is, one of the greatest weapons God has given you. It has freed you from many deceptions, unnecessary pains, and alliances that would have delayed your journey. And today, it continues to guide you, especially when the world tries to disguise the truth with masks and appearances. You carry a sensitivity that many dismiss, but that heaven values deeply. Because for those with a special mission, more than intelligence is needed. Discernment is essential, and God has been training you from an early age to trust less in what the eyes see and more in what the Spirit feels. If today you still feel this capacity alive within you, know that it is a blessing and not a weakness. Trust in what God has placed in your heart. Your intuition is your beacon in dark times, and it will continue to lead you to places that common eyes could never see. During your school life, you may have wondered why, even without doing anything wrong, some people simply rejected you. You didn't need to say a word to disturb. Your presence alone was enough to provoke scornful looks, mean-spirited jokes, and silent exclusions that hurt deeply, yet you couldn't understand the reason. What happened was that, even without you realizing it, your light was already shining brighter. And light, when it appears in environments where darkness is comfortable, bothers people. Your authenticity inadvertently exposed the emptiness of many who preferred to live with facades. Therefore, the rejection was not about what you did. It was about who you were. There was something in you that others could not explain but felt. Something that confronted, without words, those who wore masks to survive socially. You, simply by being true, made those who lived through deception feel threatened, and the way they found to react was through rejection disguised as jokes or criticism. Many times, these attacks came disguised as humor. Jokes about your mannerisms, your interests, your reserved demeanor. Comments that seemed silly but carried an invisible load of envy. They tried to diminish what they couldn't understand. They tried to label what they didn't have the courage to be. Being excluded hurts. You may have cried silently, wished to be accepted, tried to change who you were to fit in, but something inside you wouldn't allow it. It was as if your spirit refused to betray its own essence just to gain fleeting applause. This silent strength was God preserving your identity. The rejection you faced was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of separation. From an early age, heaven was already making it clear that your path would be different, that you would not need the approval of men to fulfill the mission entrusted only to you, and that the price of authenticity would be temporary loneliness. Even without realizing it, you always carried a purity that was not of this world. And this purity irritated those who had already settled for mediocrity. Your ability to remain true to yourself, even under pressure, was a silent scream against a system that wanted to mold everyone the same way. Envy often came from people who admired your strength, but didn't have the courage to admit it. Instead of being inspired, they preferred to attack. Instead of growing, they preferred to try to diminish. But what God planted within you could never be erased by words or human rejections. Today, looking back, you realize all of that was training. Every criticism, every scornful glance, every exclusion shaped your spirit to withstand the world's rejection without losing your essence. You were strengthened in silence, forged in rejection, prepared in pain. And today, that silent strength shines brighter than ever. Do not mourn for those who rejected you. Their rejection was divine protection. God removed those who could not walk with you to the destination He prepared. Those who could not tolerate your light would not have the capacity to bear the weight of your mission. That's why the separation was necessary. The chosen one does not need to be accepted to be relevant. You have already been accepted by the one who matters, and that is what matters. What made you suffer yesterday now reveals itself as the greatest proof that you have always carried something rare, precious, and indestructible. Your authenticity is the mark of heaven upon your life. Loneliness during school might have felt like a punishment. While others formed groups, threw parties, and shared secrets, you often walked alone. It was not by choice. It was as if something greater was separating you. And in that forced silence, unknowingly, you were being strengthened for a purpose that went beyond that moment. The solitary recesses, the quiet hours in the classroom, the breaks when it seemed like no one saw you. All of this was part of an invisible plan. God was teaching you to find peace within yourself. He was showing you that true strength arises when we learn to be okay, even without an audience. Many associate loneliness with sadness. But for the chosen one, loneliness is a training ground. It was there that you learned to listen to your own voice. It was there that you learned to trust in God more than in the opinions of others. The pain of exclusion shaped a faith that is now your greatest treasure. The school of loneliness is harsh, but it is true. It strips away the need to please, the dependence on acceptance, and the fear of rejection from within you. It teaches that even without applause, your journey has value. Even without support, your purpose remains alive. Even without recognition, you are seen by the heavens. Each moment alone was, in fact, a divine invitation to look inward, to recognize gifts that the noise of the crowd would not allow you to discover. God did not want you to lose yourself trying to fit in. He wanted you to find yourself. And the way to do this was through silence, through introspection. While others sought popularity, you were called to seek depth. While they got lost in empty conversations, you immersed yourself in thoughts that connected you to the invisible. You were being set apart for something that few would understand, but would transform your life forever. Loneliness taught you to be your own company, to not need the approval of others to feel that you had value. This is one of the greatest strengths of a chosen one, the ability to move forward even when everyone else seems to be going in another direction. The ability to trust even when everything seems empty. You learn to seek from God what the world could not offer you. And this search shaped your character in such a way that today, even in the face of adversity, you remain steadfast. Because the foundation was built in silence, in pain, but also in the constant presence of the Father. That feeling of emptiness, of being invisible, now reveals itself as divine armor. What seemed like abandonment was, in fact, protection. God was hiding you, keeping you safe, preparing you for the right time, so that when the hour came, you would be strong enough to carry what few could bear. If today you value peace, authenticity, and the presence of God above any human approval, give thanks for the moments of loneliness you experienced. They were not wasted. They were training. They were care. They were love in the form of silence. And today, they reveal themselves as one of the greatest proofs that you have always been chosen. While many were concerned with grades, status, and acceptance, something inside you seemed to seek something else. It wasn't ambition. It wasn't vanity. It was a thirst for meaning. You looked around and felt that there was something beyond the school routine, something that no one taught, but that your spirit already recognized as true. You couldn't explain it, but there was a constant presence around you. It was as if you were being watched, guided, led by something invisible. Sometimes this feeling caused confusion. Other times, it brought peace. It was as if you knew there was a mission, even without having the words to describe it. In tests, conversations, and the little situations of everyday life, your heart reacted differently. What was common for others often irritated you, and what seemed small to them was, for you, profound. This happened because your spirit was already aligned with something greater than common logic. You didn't seek to draw attention, but your presence made an impact. Even in silence, you stirred the environment. This occurred because your energy was different, more connected to the spiritual. You were a sign, even when you didn't yet know that you were being used as an instrument. This hidden purpose did not arise suddenly. It had been with you since your first days of school. While others planned common futures, you found yourself dreaming of something you didn't even know existed. A life with more depth, more truth, with more presence of God in every step. There were moments when you felt lost. After all, everyone seemed to have a direction except you. But the truth is that your path was not meant to be the same. It was being drawn by invisible hands, and every detail of your school journey was part of the silent preparation for something eternal. The conflicts, the feelings of inadequacy, the emptiness you couldn't fill, all of these were signs. Signs that the world around you was too small for the size of the mission that God had placed inside you. The pain was a reminder that you were not made to fit in, but to be shaped. Many did not understand your way. Some criticized you, while others ignored you. But not for a moment did you cease to be observed by the heavens. Your purpose was hidden, protected. And each difficult phase was, in fact, a step toward the activation of the plan that the world did not see, but that God had already written. Today, everything begins to make sense. The silence of the past, the restlessness, the isolation, the sensitivity. None of it was by chance. Everything was part of something that is only now beginning to be revealed. And the more you recognize this calling, the clearer it becomes that your story has always been different, because your destiny will be as well. What you lived through was not a mistake. It was preparation. What seemed like rejection was, in fact, redirection. You were kept, set apart, trained in silence for a journey that is not just any journey. It is unique, and only you can fulfill it with the heart you developed in the process. You are one of the chosen ones. And now that you know this, your path becomes clearer. The pains make sense, the questions turn into answers, and your story begins to touch other lives with the same intensity that once healed you from within. You are the difference that the world has been waiting for. So walk with confidence. Honor who you are. The world may not have understood you in the past, but heaven always knew who you were. And now it is time to live as someone who finally understood. I was never lost. I was always being prepared. If this message resonated with you, comment down below. Tell me, which part of your story as a chosen one has impacted you the most? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue receiving messages that strengthen your journey. Your journey is just beginning. Star.